This is the free motion quilting tutorial for Josh's ladders. This design is stitched by first creating the sides of your ladder, and then you're going to stitch the rungs. So you just simply stitch two straight lines parallel to one another, and then more straight lines within that space, moving back and forth. And you can see there's a lot of traveling involved with this stitch and a lot of precise stitching. I'm stitching pretty slowly, so that way I can keep the stitch quality very nice. I can keep my stitches looking nice and on those lines, and that's very important. Just take your time and don't try and rush through this. So now I'm going to stitch another ladder coming up and then stitch the rungs again. My husband actually thought of this design after cleaning out the gutters. He was like, well, what if you could stack all the ladders together to make a filler design? And this reminds me a lot of In Stitches, one of the early designs from the project. And it has a very interesting texture. It's very graphic, straight lines and sharp angles. So it's going to probably end up being fairly flat on your quilt. But at the same time, the gaps that are created in between the ladders do add a bit to this design as well. So it's very interesting and kind of fun to play with. You're going to want to stack these together. You can see how I'm doing this very randomly, almost like they're kind of sticks that have been kind of thrown on the floor. And this helps to keep the design looking random. Of course, if you wanted a slightly different effect, you could stitch one single ladder from edge to edge. You could stitch them and mark them in a particular pattern. There's really a million ways you could take this design and play with it. I like the randomness, but this is admittedly pretty tricky to stitch. I had a couple missed starts simply because I stitched myself into kind of a corner and it wasn't looking very good because there were too many gaps between the ladders for it to look nice. So it is kind of a tricky design, but play with it. It is fun. And this design would look great stitched on a boys quilt, you know, for fire engines. You could take the ladders and do a lot of different things with them, make robots. My son is a huge fan of robots, so that kind of really gets the creative juices flowing for me as to what to do with this stitch and where to put it in a quilt. And here's what it looks like whenever you finish Josh's ladders. Learn more about free motion quilting and get the tools and supplies you need to get started at daystyledesigns.com.